This one's for the disruptors, the uncommon, the unconventional, the rebels. You're not here to take things lying down. Well, season 2 is about shaking things up. I'm Beatrice, and this is the Art of Branding podcast. Be ready, be badass. Let's shake some shit up. We're starting this season hot. This is about shaking things up in the best way possible. And what better way to do it than with not one, but two co-hosts who will alternate throughout the season. Bringing in the business expertise side, we've got Michael with 2 decades of business expertise. He's the profit accelerator with guaranteed results and the don't be shit badass. And on the other side, we've got the podcast and sound front with Elijah, who's also the producer behind all the scenes of the Art of Branding. Guys, there's a lot of opinions on what disrupting in business means. What are your thoughts? Is it for everyone?
Based on our conversation that we had pre-recording today, many people overthink things. And I don't know if everybody's ready for disruption, especially if you're the business owner pushing that onto the potential clients. I think it's the people watching the business owners that aren't necessarily ready for the disruption. I think the business owners are, but it's the potential customers and clients that aren't always ready for the shock and the awe that's going to come from somebody that's really putting a 180 on the industry.
I'm a huge fan of disrupting, as you may or may not have gathered by my hat. But what I would say from a disrupting point of view is it's always got to come back to why. Why are we doing it? There's got to be a really, like, some people just try and make something work for no reason, right? And we just, like, if we're going to really get in there and disrupt things, it's very valuable as a business growth tool when done correctly for the right reasons. And the right reasons are genuinely that you're passionate about what it is you're disrupting.
Is there a wrong disruption? I'm here for the gossip. I got my popcorn. Got any examples?
So that's the thing. I got a lot of people who are just like, I'm not sure that I want to be disruptive. Maybe it's not the kind of disruptive that they're thinking.
Yeah, you know what? Like, I don't have something that comes to mind in particular from a brand that I would like call out on it. But what I do think is that what I do see a lot of is actually I have something that I want to talk about, and I have someone that I've spoken to that is looking to do something within their industry. I can't exactly say what it is because I was told this in confidence, right? So I'm going to talk around it. They are trying to introduce a new way for a certain type of business to do something. It sounds like, yeah, and they think it's a really great idea. The problem is none of those businesses want it because they don't need it, because the way they do it currently is really, really easy. But it's a techie thing, and they're bringing in AI and they're doing all these like flashy things, but it's not necessary. So they're trying to disrupt an industry where there's nothing to disrupt. The way that it's done now works really well. It's very efficient. It's low cost. People are happy with it. So what are we disrupting?
AI needs to go shut up for a minute or two, because just because you throw AI in something doesn't mean you're disrupting. Yeah, it's tech. It's a different way of doing things, and maybe it helps your workflow. But automating things is not disrupting. And putting stupid search features that are useless in like messenger tools that you click on with your fat thumb that are completely useless and make you do something else and search for ads. I don't like that. I don't know. Why do you have to? That's a good point. Why do you have to shove in tech just to say you're disrupting because it's trendy?
I see a lot of people they're putting in AI. It's like, hey, this is the next new thing. It's the trend. Let's get on this. But that's the thing. Everybody is getting in on AI and tech, and it's like, well, how am I going to stand out if like everybody else is getting into it? It's not the fact that you need to follow the trend, but rather
create the trend.
Yeah, look, I'm sure there's people doing it, but from in the space where I am within my local area and potentially my national area, it's disruptive because it's something very different to what other people are doing in that space. And it's going to challenge the business coaching industry from the particular point of view of business coaches right now don't necessarily have a very good name, right? And part of that is because there's been a lot of money spent on them with not very many results. So my thing was always from the get go, we guarantee results, right? Which, like, that is a little bit of a challenge, but it's not a big enough challenge. So something that I'm working on right now is actually partnering up with some marketing companies. So we actually provide an end to end service where we're bringing the leads in for people, warmed up, ready to go, and then I'm helping them through the sales process. I'm helping them build their people, their operations out, so that we can really accelerate businesses a lot faster than they would organically when they're lost and they don't necessarily have that focus. And then off the back of that, we're actually, so that we don't become a crutch to that business, the plan is in 2 to 3 years of doing that with them is we're actually going to train up the team for them to then hand over to their team so that they get it done for them and they end up with a team that's doing the stuff.
I've really seen a lot of gen leads, that sort of thing shoved in my face from Instagram leads because I'm, starting and building. But that's really nice to see that you actually, people that take the time to go end to end, see people through and actually give a shit about people instead of just shoving leads at $5 a pop or whatever it is because they're a money machine. That's kind of nice. Just the simple stuff seems to be disrupting care, empathy, all of these things, the human stuff that AI doesn't have that people maybe need to go back to. And sadly enough, that's called disrupting. Kind of wild, isn't it?
See, that's the thing. So I have a list of words. They're disruptor, unconventional, edgy, anti cookie cutter, rebel, uncommon, status quo breaker. They, they're different names that different people use, but do they mean the same to you?
I feel that, like, all these words, they're great and everything like that, but if you're truly out there and you want to make a change, because if you're disrupting, ideally you're looking to change with a purpose, like, you have to go and do the thing even though it's hard, even though it looks bad, even though you're going to get negative feedback, even though you're out there, because disrupting is challenging the status quo. And, like, you can say all the things that you want from a label point of view, but unless you actually go and do things that are against the status quo and are out there in direct opposition of what the majority of people want to do, you're not a disruptor. You're just someone who's trying to put a fancy tag on.
And also the certain words might just resonate to someone because it's in their environment or they've been taught it or they're all the same. Absolutely. But there's coaches or gurus. Those are fun words, right? They mean the same thing, but the guru word would have a whole different connotation. If you're a don't be shit guru, perhaps, but I wouldn't use that because I don't respect the term because people that use it um, I don't think they're real professionals. So that to me would be an example of disrupting and using those words in a context that resonates with me.
Is it disrupting or positioning though? Like, sorry, I just want to jump in for a second because, like, what I think of right now is I've just recently got an introduction to someone who calls their role the toxic terminator, and what their role is to go into businesses and work on culture and remove toxic culture and develop the culture within businesses. And the things that they are doing aren't necessarily different from what other people would do in that scenario, but they position themselves really well with a catchy name that people are quite interested in.
I like that positioning, the Terminator. That's fun. It's there's nostalgia. There's a bit of Arnold Schwarzenegger and fun accents, and there's big machine guns and probably pretty women for those who are interested in the movie business. But that's all the magic that happens in the visual. Maybe there's pretty men too, Beatrice, for your sake, but who knows? But yeah, it's cool.
I mean, they nailed nostalgia, they nailed pop culture, and it's not even that hard to go and find words that fit for you and are also going to resonate with other people. Okay, apart from seeing what other people are using or what they're referring to you, you can also check out on Google, like type in a word and check out the synonyms, and it'll tell you like what is the popularity. Is the popularity increasing? Is it decreasing over time? So that's a good way to check. Hey, is this going to continue resonating in the long time? Because you're not just focused. Like if you're just going based on trends, maybe a word like, how cool has evolved over centuries into, I don't even know what it is now, but whatever the translation for cool, it's no longer the same as, say, when we were growing up.
I was listening to a podcast, as I do. I'm a fan of podcasts. And they were talking about what is cringe. And the biggest part of what they said about cringe was cringe as being inauthentic to yourself and what you are doing.
So it's not me trying to dance with two left feet and make a stupid video. That's not cringe? Because that's what my kids say. I feel relieved.
I mean, are you being authentic? Do you normally dance, or have you just decided that you're hopping on TikTok to dance because you want a few likes?
Sometimes it's nice to get out of your comfort zone, but sometimes you just want to go and do whatever, right? Life is too hard to be serious. I don't know.
Yeah, whether it's, is that you? And that's what, like, are you going to bust out a silly dance every now and again? Like, for example, if I went and did that, someone might go, oh, you never do that. But if they actually came to my house and saw what happens when my wife leaves the garage almost every time, when myself and my 3 or 4-year-old daughter are there, we actually do what she calls is the boober dance. And we're standing at the carport as the car's pulling out, doing our little silly dance for my wife as she's leaving. So for me to hop on there and go and do the boober dance, that's actually me just showing more of myself as opposed to being inauthentic.
And if there was remnants of Mrs. Doubtfire scenes, I'd be okay with that dancing too. That'd be a hoot, a riot, be a good time.
I mean, I'm not quite that confident, mate, but
There's time. It's okay.
That's the thing, like, all these things that we're talking about, Mrs. Doubtfire, etc., they're all things that exist. And what I find a lot of people talking about is like, hey, if you need to be different or if you need to disrupt, you need to do something new. What do you guys reckon?
Yeah, you do. I think sometimes people look at social media and you have to be perfect and polished and consistent, which is fine. But sometimes you might feel you're not getting reach or follows or whatever it is that you're trying to reach an audience, or maybe you're trying to shift your messaging to a certain type of audience to kind of hone in on a niche, and maybe they like people that dance on one leg and spin around like a goofball. Who knows? Or maybe you just want to throw it all away because you're frustrated as an entrepreneur. You're just trying something wild and crazy and see what sticks. I think that's a good way to test, but not everybody likes that or resonates with that or understands it when you just kind of flip the script and go, hey, I'm a human being, I'm trying something different.
doing something that is old, that used to work, and bringing that back because it's been left behind by an industry can be very disruptive. And like for me personally, when I go and work with businesses, one of the first things that I go and do to help grow that business is go and look for the thing that they used to do that they no longer do that worked really well to go and test if it works well now. And I've seen that work really well.
I think that happened with board games some few years ago, where modern board games just had a resurgence and just kind of went nuts. There used to be Monopoly and whatever games, or old card games like euchre, but then all of a sudden board games just yeah, yeah, huge way. And then kids are playing it. Well, young adults, but the old farts and kids are playing together. So it's kind of interesting that all the socialized based games have come back. Not just video games and tech, but just people want to get out, have a pint, and have some fun together.
You know what? I think I'm going to push back on this because I see a lot of opportunity in what's already been around. I just think it's looking to other industries. Say, for example, one industry has just it's being done this specific way, and like everybody's just doing different alternatives of that industry. But say, for example, you look at a completely different industry and take and adapt something from that. You're not creating something new, you're adapting it, you're making it into something that would work for your industry.
I mean, we're doing that. Like, it's so effective. We're doing that with businesses every day. I have a whole mastermind style event built around that, getting businesses in different industries together to work on businesses so we can like swap those different things from a different angle to push that business forward because no one else in the industry is doing it.
As much as we love to judge Elon and his empire, he took computer tech and slapped that into a car and threw some batteries in them, so to speak, and then revolutionized the automotive industry. And a lot of the big players, at least in North America, couldn't keep up, and they're scaling back their EV side of business because they can't really figure out how to make it profitable because they're kind of stuck in their head in their own traditional ways. They're not willing to reinvent or to push forward or to push that envelope to where Elon is thinking, hey, anything's possible. I'll just throw money at it, and if it fails, it fails. If it succeeds, yay, I'll go to Mars. And people seem to struggle with that. So I thought that this evolution has been really interesting to see. The industry is shifting, but also people are struggling to catch up and understand how that genius works. Well, he doesn't really have uh, on the surface a process or a model. He just kind of invents the process as he goes.
Oh, he's got some pretty good strategy behind him though, because if you go look at any of the Tesla or anything that he launches, he doesn't go and sell to the general populace. He goes up. And what that does is that brings in revenue, and you get the more money that you have coming in from that, and you go sell higher ticket, then it's a lot easier for you to service and bring prices down afterwards and like mass produce to a degree.
Thing is, like, just going off that idea with Elon and his, bringing these existing ideas, a lot of the inventions, like even the mobile phone, right, or the it's been done already. It just, the timing wasn't there, the people weren't ready for that idea, and it just needed to be like brought from a certain angle, which, hey, it resonates, it makes sense. So same thing is, when the horse carriages switched over to cars, they didn't say car straight away, right? They said horseless cars to make it something that people can understand. It is about like understanding the audience and, to me, trying things that already exist but from a different perspective.
So disrupting doesn't have to always be big bang right out the gate. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. It's just see from a different angle and see what others have done. What's your voice on that? Go back to what your perspective is and your authentic perspective. And I know it's like an overused word, but I mean, at the end of the day, when does disruptive even matter?
That's an awesome question. I was about to ask you that question. Why do people disrupt?
Things are boring on the day to day, right? And people seem, they're looking for money, they're looking for ideas, they're looking for something that just is really cool and trendy, and then they can get an awards, perhaps. I don't know, but usually for me to change the way things work, at least in podcasting, to push people to be better, to be more interesting, to ask better questions, is because everybody is doing the same thing. And if I'm listening to, I don't know, 20 different podcasts and they all ask, how are you doing today? I'm going to throw up a little bit in my mouth mentally. And that's not, it's a sense of joy. And when you get to people and you want to create stuff to make people's lives better, make it interesting or make it entertaining, you want to do something different, kind of push that forward, even if it's little bit by little bit, to ask a different question. That's for me the nice thing about disrupting, just to change the way people think and look at things and then how they enjoy them.
For me and what I do and what I work with businesses on, it's really about what are we doing that gives you that edge, that positions you as the only option for someone to purchase from. Because if we are playing in a playing field of one as opposed to a playing field of 10 people, It makes a massive difference. It's so much easier. We're not competing on price. We're not out there trying to put the same messaging out to the same people that everyone else is doing. And it allows us to really, once we nail that, just the lead flow coming through and building that business is so much easier if we're positioned in that space, and also gives you that bigger voice to go and influence change going forwards as well.
The way that I see it is we're going back to like medieval times where, there's the marketplace and there's a bunch of stores. They're all selling the same sort of thing. But the ones that stand out, they're either, they're being spoken about, like a friend or a family has told you about that one, or there's a massive line, or something stands out about it. And to me, that still represents now. You have a look, it's just all online now. And even the brick and mortar, you can have a look between businesses that stand out. Like there's two pizza shops next to each other. They're going to have like different values. They're going to have different ways that they stand out. And if they don't, it's going to be even more cutthroat. It's going to last even less of a time in the market. And that's why I say it's important.
50% of the audience will want pineapple on their pizza. 50% of people will want pineapple off of their pizza. So maybe that's a thing they could differentiate with, right? To pull in those people. But you're right. It just, if you're offering the same product, it's just how are you going to compete? And often that's just lowering your price until you cry in the corner, and nobody wants that.
I can tell you what happens in that instance is they just keep decreasing price until one of them can't do business anymore, and then the other one has a lot of problems trying to bring that price back up.
Or going with the pineapple on pizza, going and leaning into that, making all of your messaging about that, because you're going to piss off people. And the idea is you're supposed to piss off people, because if you're not, is your voice really loud enough?
So you have to get people upset to be loud and to be heard.
You have to upset some people. There's not going to be a time where you don't. People have varying opinions. Like that, there's the people who believe the Earth is flat. There's people that believe a whole bunch of things. That there's always going to be an opinion on something.
So really, I guess they're not necessarily upset and angry, but they're uncomfortable and they don't like that.
Yeah, well, if you're going against the status quo, then you're definitely going to upset people. It's just a matter of time. And do you not want to upset people? Because if you're trying to offer a different opinion out there, you've then got to go have some conversations to get people like upset, because it's a catalyst for change. And the only way people are going to change is if they're uncomfortable. So to disrupt, in my opinion, you have to go and upset people. And I'm not talking about going down the street and throwing like a bottle of water in someone's face and then like running off kind of upset people, but going out there and having those tough conversations that people don't necessarily want to hear.
You know what? I would say anyone beyond disrupting, it's important to put your voice out there, because if you're putting your voice out there and trying to please everybody in your messaging, it's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to grow. Like all of the people.
No one cares. You're just saying the same thing that everyone else is saying. Why are they listening?
As business owners, if we're overly polite and try to keep everybody happy, maybe that makes it worse, because then nobody really finds you interesting enough to do business with you, because you kind of just float and you're consistent and you're just there.
You have a look at all of the business owners, rather, because they're always standing out more than the companies. Gary V, Elon Musk, uh, Richard Branson. It's They always have an opinion. They're never trying to please everyone. I mean, can you guys think of anyone that's got a
Absolutely not.
pleasant opinion of trying to please everyone who is at that level.
Bezos tries, but some people still don't like him just for him. So that's how it goes.
Thanks, guys. You can connect with Michael and Elijah through deets in the podcast show notes. Thanks for listening to the Art of Branding podcast. Dropping a 5-star review is a badass way to support the podcast so more people can discover how to create their own badass brand. Ready to shift your business from
Time for bloopers. Yay!
I mean, we totally should have recorded that because that could have been a really great outro to the podcast.
Again, I can do better. I can do better. Let's do this.
She got right in where you said something about whale blubber, I think, and then we just started recording from there. That was magical.
I'm sorry.
Could I, before you stop recording, could I ask you to try that one more time? Not to get in your head, but yeah, thanks.
Wow, biologist. I can say that.